Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. O come, Emmanuel, and with your captive children dwell. Give comfort to all exiles here, and to the aching heart bid cheer. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come within as love to dwell. O come, you splendor very bright, as joy that never yields to might. O come and turn all hearts to peace, that greed and war at last shall cease. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come within as truth to dwell. O come, you dayspring, come and cheer our spirits by your presence here, and dawn in every broken soul as vision that can see the whole. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come within as light to dwell. O come, you wisdom from on high, from depths that hide within a sigh, to temper knowledge with our care, to render every act a prayer. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come within as hope to dwell.
Thank you, Richard. That was beautiful. Good morning, everybody. I'm Kitty Forbush, and this morning, together with Doris Lomba, Patti Goodwin, and Tom Williams, we will lead you in worship as Reverend Lane is out of the pulpit today, taking some needed personal time. Welcome to First Universalist Church of Rochester, where we are called to nurture the spirit and serve the community. Whoever you are welcome here. Wherever you come from, you are welcome here. Whomever you love, you are welcome here. However and whenever you pause to reflect, you are welcome here. It is good to be together this morning. We acknowledge with respect the Seneca Nation, keepers of the Western Door, and part of the Haudenosaunee people, on whose ancestral lands First Universalist stands. We are worshiping in a new way. We are a community of seekers, both online and in person. And we are choosing to worship in person, vaccinated and masked with social distance. This might be a good time to check on whether or not you have your mask on correctly and whether or not you are maintaining good distance from others. If you are here for the first time this morning, we especially welcome you. Thank you for making it to this worshiping community. We have a visitor's form that can be found in the chat for our folks online, and that can be found in your order of service for folks in person. Please fill out the form so we can offer you a welcome beyond this worship service. Before we take a moment to turn to our neighbor, Let us take a moment to turn towards the camera and to greet our online worshiping community. Please offer a wave. And if you are, oh, so nice. If you are online, please pop into the chat to offer a greeting and to share your joys and sorrows. If you are here at First Universalist in person, let us take a moment to turn to our neighbor this morning and offer a greeting. Please respect people's physical distance and obtain consent and ask before reaching out for a handshake or a hug. We encourage elbow bumps and placing a hand over one's heart while making eye contact. Please let us greet one another. Look at them. La la la. La la la. La la la. I love this tie. Oh, sorry. I know you want to do this for about 25 more minutes, but we're going to stand in body or spirit and sing together hymn number 186, Grieve Not Your Heart. Brock will play it for us through once so you can familiarize yourself with the melody. Grieve not your heart.
If you came this morning with a heavy heart, with grief weighing down your body and loss lingering on your skin, welcome. This space is for you. If you came this morning with an anxious current charging through your mind, with worry creeping into your throat, welcome. This space is for you. If you came this morning as a weary traveler through the Christmas season, trying and failing to call forth merriment in yourself, welcome. If you're here to look for hope, to pray for joy, to weep, or to stay silent, to slough off the cynicism holding you, or to just make it through until the new year, welcome. This space is for you. May it embrace you in the warmth of darkness and the promise of morning. Come, Let us worship together. As Paula Marchese lights our chalice at First Universalist Church, and you light a chalice in your own homes, will you join me in saying our chalice words in unison? May we be a people of welcome, here to grow in heart and mind and spirit, and may we reach out to serve our community. Please stand in body or spirit and join together in reciting our affirmation of faith, followed by our doxology. Love, the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the source and meaning of life. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all.
Three children are playing in the sandbox, talking about what their parents do for a living. The first child says, "My father writes words on a piece of paper, calls it a poem, and they pay him $50. The second child says, "That's nothing. My dad puts black dots on a paper, writes words, and calls it a song, and they pay him $100. The third child said, "I have both feet. My mom is a minister. She writes words on a paper, calls it a sermon. And it takes 8 people to collect all the money." For all the words and the music that are prepared for you each week from Reverend Lane, Reverend Michelle, your worship associates, Brock, and the choir, in support of your spiritual growth, please give generously today as the offering is given and gratefully received. You are invited to bring your offering to the offertory boxes in the back and front of the sanctuary during this offertory or the service, or after the service. If you would like to give online, please scan the QR code on the back of the order of service or click the link in the chat to give to First Universalist Church. You can also feel free to send a check to the church. Today is Food Ingathering Sunday. Please bring your donations forward and place them in the baskets.
Yeah, they're there.
Okay, good, thanks.
I invite you into this reverent time of sharing the joys and sorrows of our gathered community. If you would like to, you can place your hand over your heart to be able to listen from this heart-centered place. As we place stones into a bowl, I will read aloud the joys and sorrows that our gathered community wrote in the Joys and Sorrows book by the door. All are also invited to share our joys or sorrows in the chat that we may hear from the community gathered here. A sorrow from Emma. One of my favorite authors, Anne Rice, died yesterday. Joy from Marty Eggers. Last weekend, I was in Chicago playing with my 2 youngest grandchildren. Joy from Jean Ott. Laura has spent the weekend with Joe and I. Joy from Steve Searles. My wife had a procedure on Wednesday and is doing much better. Hoping to have her home by Christmas. Sorrow from M.J. Curry. My good friend's mother, who was recovering from leukemia, developed a rare infection and died last night. Sorrow from Jean Ott. Sorrows and prayers for all affected by the tornadoes Friday night and the winds last night. Sorrow from Dolores Lomba. My young cousin was in a terrible auto accident, breaking several ribs, a hip, a leg, collapsed lung, and more.
She faces several operations beginning today. We will certainly hold her in our hearts. A sorrow from Kitty Forbush. For the victims of the devastating tornadoes in 6 states, especially the town of Mayfield, Kentucky, which is gone, not a building standing. A joy from David and Elizabeth. Our neighbor Pat is home for the holidays after a hospital stay to monitor sodium levels. Here's hoping. We hope too. And we drop one final stone into the bowl to represent all the joys and sorrows left unspoken in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. May all be held in the heart of love. Today, we light a white candle to acknowledge that we are a community affected by the grief, loss, and fear of living through a pandemic. May this candle's flame hold our experiences around this horrific disease, and may its light be a beacon of hope and a reminder that we are not alone. Reluctant. Okay, we see the white candles lit, right? We can agree on that.
This is a reading by George E. Odell. We need one another. We need one another when we mourn and would be comforted. We need one another when we are in trouble and afraid. We need one another when we are in despair, in temptation, and need to be recalled to our best selves again. We need one another when we would accomplish some great purpose and cannot do it alone. We need one another in the hour of success, when we look for someone to share our triumphs. We need one another in the hour of defeat, when with encouragement we might endure and stand again. We need one another when we come to die and would have gentle hands prepare us for the journey. All our lives, we are in need, and others are in need of us. This ends the reading. We are approaching the longest night of the year. Let us take the darkness and wrap it around us like a blanket. Let us pause to think, pause to reflect, and pause to enter a time of meditation. Let us sing together our hymn of contemplation, number 55, Dark of Winter.
When I was 6, I told my mother I wanted to be a teacher. She said I'd have to go to college. I said, yes. In my youth, I taught many things. I tutored math. I worked in recreation. I taught sports, arts and crafts, photography. I taught high school English. Then I retired. I thought my teacher days were over. Then a friend asked me to join her small quilting group. I said, yes. I learned many things from the group. I took classes. I joined the Genesee Valley Quilt Club. I joined the Block of the Month committee. I kept learning. The chair of the committee called me one day to ask a favor. I knew she was dying of ALS. She wanted me to be a chair of the Block of the Month committee. She also asked me to take her place at building community through quilting. What did I answer? I said yes. We never know where the lessons in life come from. Often the biggest barriers to learning new things and meeting new people are our own fears. We can be afraid of trying new things. We can be afraid of looking foolish. We can be afraid of failure. Once when I was visiting a friend in Catalonia, Spain, her husband and his sister took me for a hike up to a beautiful pear-shaped lake in the mountains. As I was asked in Spanish if I wanted to go, I really didn't have a full understanding of what I would be doing and how challenging it would be. But I said yes. So off I went, walking on stones to cross running streams. I fell several times. Halfway across one stream, I slipped and I went splat across the stones and into the water. If I had understood the challenge, I might have let fear answer for me. Sure, I was a little bruised and wet, but what awe-inspiring beauty I would have missed if I had not said yes. Saying yes to teaching quilting at Building Community Through Quilting has been a life changer. The people I have met and my students have enriched my life. One such person was Pearl Rugless. I first started teaching Pearl before her 90th birthday. I joked with her and learned from her. I spent hours talking to her on the phone during the lockdown. She died of natural causes at age 95. At her memorial service last week, I got to be part of the celebration of her life. In the order of service, which she set up before she passed, she included her words of wisdom. I call them pearls. I'd like to share them with you now. Flip that me upside down. Turn your me into we. 5 things that you should observe with care. Of whom you speak, to whom you speak, how you speak, when you speak, and where you speak. If I had not said yes, I would not have had my life enriched by her. Saying yes to life brings about unexpected experiences that make life deeper and richer in texture. So to quote one of our hymns, when they say what I did best, tell them I said yes to life.
When I reflect on my life during this time of year, like Ebenezer Scrooge, I am visited by a ghost of a Christmas past. Christmas 1968. I was barely 21 years old, halfway around the world on Campanari, which was the base camp for the 4th Infantry Division near Pleiku in the Central Highlands of South Vietnam. I was away from my home for the first time. There would be no Christmas tree, no big family gathering, no presents under the tree, not even a visit from Bob Hope to Campanari. To my surprise, and with my 1/2 cup full attitude, the season went quite nicely. We received Christmas cards from people we never met. We received goodie boxes from friends and family. My Grandma Kelly, bless her, sent me a pound of cashews and a box of dried apricots because she knew they were 2 of my favorite things. There were gift boxes from the Salvation Army filled with a variety of toiletries, hand-knotted rosaries from church groups, and a box of Russell Stover chocolates from my friends at Fisher's Pharmacy, where I worked as a teen. In addition, on the flip side of the coin, there was always concern during holiday seasons of increased mortar attacks to the camp. Would the enemy take advantage of us on a day when our guard might be down, or will they leave us alone and call a truce? The day remained calm. We worked from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 7 days a week. Christmas Day would be no exception. I took my 1-hour break, attended Mass at the base camp chapel, sang Christmas songs, and felt quite merry. That evening, I had made plans to get together with my best friend from basic training who was serving on a different part of the camp. We met halfway between our company areas at a service club. We caught up, had a couple beers, headed back to our respective company areas. We parted at the main road through base camp, a road that sloped downhill gradually the entire way of the camp. He headed right, going uphill. I turned left, heading downhill toward 4th Admin Company. Little did I know, I was about to have my bah humbug moment of the day, an experience I have shared only a couple times. Looking down the slope of the road at the direction, about a distance, the length of this city block, with only the light of many stars and the moon, I saw 2 GIs walking in the same direction as me. They were loud, boisterous, and obviously drunk. My gut told me to lay back, walk slow, and don't pass them. Just then, I saw another GI coming uphill toward the 2 drunks. As the 3rd GI approached, the 2 drunks jumped him and began beating the tar out of him. As I continue, you are hearing this in slow motion. Know that my mind was racing with thoughts of what to do. I immediately sprang into action. I started yelling as I ran toward the men. I waved my hands and arms. I stamped my combat boots on the macadam as I ran. I wanted the perps to think I was an army coming for them, not just little old me. It worked. They pushed the innocent GI to the ground and took off down the road. 100 yards from the incident, give or take, just before my company area was an MP station. I took the victim, bloody-faced, to the MP station. MPs got into the Jeep, picked up the 2 perps, and brought them back for us to identify. I hadn't seen them. I could not identify them. At that point, one of the perps broke loose, ran towards me, grabbed me by the front of my fatigues, lifted me up out of the chair, and went back like this, and his arm was going right at my nose. When the fist got that far from my nose, I'm not exaggerating, I still see that fist right in front of me. I got a little lost here. If he hadn't, my nose would be like this today. When the fist was that close, the MPs grabbed him and I was saved. The MP asked me if I wanted to press charges, and this is when my gut failed me. I said, no, it's Christmas. At this point, the MPs sent me on my way after collecting some information from me. I never saw the three of them again. I don't know the outcome. I have often regretted not pressing charges. I could have ensured that the perps would be held accountable for their Christmas attack on a fellow American, a fellow GI, a brother of war. And that's why sometimes at Christmas, I am visited by that ghost of a Christmas past.
The Christmases of my early childhood were wonderful. Christmas Eve, after a delicious dinner, my mom was a great cook. My sister, my brother, and I were sent to bed fairly early, complaining all the way, so my parents could prepare the living room for the next morning. Each of us kids had their spot in the living room, where our big, most desired present would sit unwrapped. Sometimes as I was finally falling asleep, I could hear them giggling and laughing as they played Santa and Mrs. Claus. Christmas morning, each of us had to wait at the top of the stairs until we were called down one at a time, my sister Mari first, then Bobby, my brother, and then me, where we would each stop at the landing and see our big gift, and our dad would snap our picture with that look of gleeful surprise on our faces. Then came more gifts, church. I sang in the choir then too. And then when back home, my grandparents and my beloved aunt would arrive with more presents. Then my parents would open our house for a neighborhood brunch. Often our mailman, Ruby, would stop by, and our milkman, Nippy was his nickname, too, for a glass of Christmas cheer and some of my mom's delectable cookies. But when I was 16, this all changed. For in 1966, when there were 8 of us celebrating Christmas, so very sadly in 1967, there was only 5. In that devastating year, I lost my grandfather, Papa, to a stroke, my beloved aunt, who was like our second mother, to pancreatic cancer, and my 19-year-old brother, Bobby, died in Vietnam, bringing nearly unbearable pain and loss. And I tell you this because here I am honored to speak my truth. As I grew up and the sharpness of these losses faded, I knew I had to recreate the holidays for myself. My marriage, my own home, 2 stepchildren, and then my biological son followed, so deserving of the fun and celebration of our own Christmas rituals. So much change has happened, losses and gains since then, the incredible cycles of life. In my new retired life, my commitment to myself is to find the joy in life and the joy in this season of love with family and friends. My entire house is decorated. I have a live tree filling the house with that fresh pine scent. Poinsettias, the creche made by my dad is displayed. He even hand-painted the figures of Mary and Joseph, sheep, a shepherd, the 3 kings, and baby Jesus in the manger. I play Christmas music. I sing carols in my kitchen where I've baked dozens of Christmas cookies to bring to friends. Who can resist the amount of butter and sugar at this time of the year? But what fills me with the Spirit the most is being here with all of you. To sit in the love of this community is the true meaning of this season. To look forward with hope, to renew the promise of love and service to ourselves, to each other, and to our community. So today, as I look around our beautiful spiritual home, decorated with love by me and Tom, and if you notice the big wreath is a little lopsided, it's because we dropped it twice trying to hang it. I pause. I pause in gratitude for all that I have. I reflect on the life that has led me to who I am. to who I am and where I am today, and to know that love is the answer.
In the opening chapter of her book, Parable of the Talents, Octavia Butler writes, I hope you know Octavia Butler, darkness gives shape to the light as light shapes the darkness. Death gives shape to life as life shapes death. Upon reading that, I immediately thought of my age. In 12 days, on Christmas Eve, I will enter the last year of my 80s. On December 24th, 2022, I'll hopefully celebrate my 90th birthday. At first, I panicked as the notion of becoming 90 became ever more real, even though there are numerous examples of octogenarians and nonagenarians living active, productive lives. I still panicked. Did my thoughts go to the positive examples of aging? No. I immediately began to think of the worst case scenario. But then I paused and I began to reflect and see vital people in their 80s and 90s, not only around the world, but right here in this very congregation. I began to think about how fortunate we are to be living in an age where science not only keeps us alive longer, but helps us to remain active. And then I read Anatole Royad's observation about longer life. He said, if we face now the reality at 63 or 70, 75, 80 or 90, that we will indeed sooner or later die, then the only big question is how are we going to live the years we have left, however many or few they may be? What adventures can we now set out on to make sure we'll be alive when we die? Can age itself be such an adventure? I'd never before thought of age being an adventure, but I see now that it is. Older people are constantly having to adapt to change, not only in our bodies, but in our minds. Joints get stiff, memories fail, bones break. We meet new challenges all the time. Aging is truly an adventure. I also thought of Simone de Beauvoir's observation about life. Life need not unravel stitch by stitch like a strayed piece of knitting, leaving nothing but meaningless strands of wool in the old person's hands. That made me think how easy it is to lose the strands of one's life as we become less active or deal with the side effects of medications. And yet, I see people responding to those circumstances by acquiring new skills, learning new languages, traveling to new places. The stitches of relationships lost are the ones I most regret. I can count on the fingers of one hand my remaining friends from high school. And I've become the matriarch of my family, as all members of the preceding generation have already passed. I'm trying to mend the dropped stitches of relationships and to knit a comforter of extended family and friends. This goal was assisted when 20 years ago, I finally met the brother I didn't know I had. I became the long-lost aunt to 4 nieces, 3 of whom had children. And through them, I found my father's birthplace, the island of Brava in the Cape Verde archipelago. And through another special relationship made possible through this church, my companion and I traveled to Brava and to its neighboring volcanic island, Fogo. Fortunately, Fogo waited until the year after our visit before erupting anew. Volcanoes are not alone in displaying periodic change. In his book, Spiritual Fitness, Tom Owenthal asserts that people do as well. We are renewable, he says. Our first birth doesn't really count for much. The later births shape and refine our personhood. We need to be created anew daily. We need to remind ourselves, especially when we are down, that we are renewable. No matter what we do, we can take advantage of fresh chances. We can turn around. We are forgiven. We can start again. Looking back on my life, I can see that I've restarted many times. Moving to Rochester is just the most recent. After my retirement, I moved to the eastern panhandle of rural West Virginia. What had been a source of retreat and renewal when I was still working and spent weekends there became a self-imposed isolation. My home was in the middle of a forest, reachable only by a twisty road up the side of what seemed to me like a mountain, and where the closest UU church was in another state. Moving to Rochester brought me back to the city and all the amenities that a city offers. I'm no more than 15 minutes away from movies, the theater, music, dance, and shopping. The roads are plowed and mail is delivered to my door. In the summer, festivals abound. And best of all, I have easy access to not 1, but 2 UU churches. And when I discovered the little, I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. Heaven reemerged after COVID threw us all off balance and the church was closed. While I attended most of the online services and was happy to see so many of your faces, it wasn't quite the same. When it was decided that it was safe to resume in-person services under specific conditions, I found myself singing an old Mel Torme tune of the 60s. I'm coming home, baby. Dancing to its bluesy rhythm, thoroughly enjoying myself. I'd like to sing it for you, but I'll spare you that experience. Instead, please join me in singing hymn number 346, Come Sing a Song with Me.
Please remain standing as we extinguish our chalice this morning. Let us read together the words printed in your order of service and on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in until we are together again. As we close our service this morning, I invite you to place a hand over your heart. If you are joining us online, I invite you to turn your settings to gallery view and look upon the faces of those here with you. For those of us in the room, take a moment to look around at those here with you today. The words of Reverend Barbara Peskin. Because of those who came before, we are.
In spite of their feelings, in spite of their failings, we believe.
Because of and in spite of the horizons of their vision,
We, too, dream.
let
us go, remembering the praise, to live in the moment, to love mightily, to bow to the mystery, and let the people of the church say, Amen.